Right, the US is warning that North Korea has restarted a plutonium reactor and could have stockpiles within weeks. It follows the communist country's launching of a long-range rocket, which many say was a test of banned missile technology. I'm joined by Professor Robert Kelly of the Department of Political Science and Diplomacy at South Korea's Pusan National University. Professor, thank you for joining me. Well, North Korea seems to have successfully launched something into space. Is anything more known about what exactly Pyongyang was up to?
Well, I think there's general consensus in the analyst community that it was not really a satellite. And even if it is, it's probably some unimportant thing. What really matters, of course, is testing the ballistic rocket technology. That technology for the space program is essentially the same as that needed for an intercontinental ballistic missile. The North Koreans have used the convenient overlap of those two technologies to repeatedly claim that their space launches are, in fact, a space program. Their rocket launches are a space program, but I don't think anyone really believes that. I mean, what really concerns people now is that the North Koreans might have developed an intercontinental ballistic missile, which means they could strike very far away, 14,000 kilometers, which includes almost all of North America.
But Professor, there have been suggestions that, yes, this was another launch, but they haven't really broken new ground with the launch. They've just been covering what they've already developed.
Yes, I've heard that as well. I mean, we're still waiting for sort of the final technical information, of course, and the North Koreans don't tell us a great deal, so there's a fair amount of speculation, right? I think the larger question over time, though, is, because presumably the North Koreans will do this again, and South Korean intelligence has already suggested that they will, why do they actually need missiles that go this far? Do they really actually intend to strike the United States? The North Koreans already have a pretty good nuclear deterrent to prevent an invasion or regime change effort. The real question is, why do they actually need things like ICBMs and submarine-launched missiles and hydrogen bombs? It's an extraordinarily powerful set of weaponry for a country primarily interested in defense.
And do you think that country has seen this launch as a major PR coup?
I do. It's important that the North Koreans demonstrate to their own people that they have technological prowess. There's a lot of information that's come into North Korea in the past 20 years, and North Koreans know that South Koreans live a much better lifestyle. They have cars and nice televisions and comfortable homes and better healthcare and things like that, right? So one of the ways that North Korea combats the impression that its people have that it's slipped behind is through the nuclear and the missile programs. And this has figured very heavily in North Korean propaganda for the last 15 years or so. The North Koreans emphasize this repeatedly for this purpose, for prestige.
Okay, Professor, it's now believed that North Korea has restarted a plutonium reactor and could have stockpiles within weeks. What exactly does that mean?
Well, the North Koreans need either plutonium or uranium in order to develop a nuclear missile. A nuclear weapon. Both of those, of course, are fissile, which means they can sustain a nuclear chain reaction. The North Koreans have a uranium program already. That's been found out. They've also had a plutonium reactor for a long time at a place called Yongbyon, where they hinted in the past that they could shut it down if there was a deal, and they even blew up a cooling tower at one point. But they've always sort of held it in reserve as a threat to restart whenever the South Koreans or the Americans expressed displeasure with North Korea, and it looks like that's what they're doing again. They need about 4 kilograms of plutonium a year in order to develop one warhead, so we'll see if they can actually produce that much. I just don't know. I'm not sure if that technical information is available.
So what do you think the international community can do effectively to counter this?
I think there are two things going forward, really. Well, first, we have to admit that North Korea is not going to step back from nuclear weapons. We can insist on North Korean denuclearization. That would be ideal, but I think it's very unlikely to happen. I think really there are a couple things we can do going forward. The first is missile defense in South Korea. I think this is long overdue, and Japan. And the second will be talking to China about financial sanctions. That is, that North Korea can't get all this technology on its own. It's got a deal on the black market through things like the AQ network of the past, right? And so it needs money. And a lot of its money, a lot of its dollars are parked in Chinese banks. And this is something increasingly that there's a lot of discussion about, is can we get to this money so the North Koreans can't use it and move it around and then get access to black market technologies?
Okay, Professor, thank you very much. Professor Robert Kelly there from South Korea.